what strategies do you as a robotic manufacturer pursue to increase your competitiveness in these times?
I mean, there is no magic band here. We're not going to have chips tomorrow. The foundries will be there, but they're going to take 3-4 years. And there's a limited capacity that maybe demand will ease. So we have more availability for industrial companies when consumer spending starts to ease. But so far, once again, I mean, demand planning, and we're talking about lead times of some chips of 700 days. So we need to know today what we will be selling and committing to in that period of time.
For sure, I think all of us look for dual alternative sources of supply, but at some point there is no magic. I think we all look in the same place. So that's definitely a challenge we have to live with. But for sure, I think the topic of manufacturing footprint as well, also linked to sustainability in here, in that case, to get operations closer to end customers. We see as well the rising cost of transportation as well, which is a big pain, transportation and logistics. So I think that beyond sustainability, it also help us to also avoid unnecessary transportation logistics and reach our customers more directly.
There is an increasing trend towards localization. Yeah, so people feel more uneasy, customers feel more uneasy relying on supplies of batteries from China, oil from Russia, for that matter, gas. So they are pulling home automation, and automation looks different in different contexts. Yeah, so an automation looks different in Europe than it looks in Asia. And this requires to be addressed from the automation side. This is one aspect. And the other aspect is e-mobility is all over the place. It's the most visible part of the iceberg decarbonization which we are facing. And this requires also new answers and new technologies because the technologies change. One example being cell production moving to Europe. In the past, cell production was predominantly using linear systems. Now robots become more attractive for various reasons, which we may want to discuss. But this creates a new requirement in electronics. Clean room was always a subject. Now with cell manufacturing, also dry room becomes a requirement, and this is a new territory for robots. So for example, at KUKA, we have a focus on preparing our robots to be usable in dry room environments to leverage the opportunities we have in the cell production in the future.
How has the war in Ukraine impacted your business? You mentioned it there briefly. Is it just uncertainty, or are there supply chain issues?
On the sustainability side, it strikes me as concerning somehow that everyone knows decarbonization is a must. We know that for decades. But the general trend was not to take it as serious. And now, as oil supply from Russia is stopping, people are now more realistically concerned with, oh, really, we need to do something about decoupling from fossil fuels.
Let's move to the automotive sector, as still, in your figures, the biggest consumer of robots. What strategies is the automotive industry following to increase sustainability of its own production?
Well, at Mercedes-Benz, sustainability of our production is, of course, tremendously important to us. So as of this year, all our global plants produce CO2 neutral. So this has started this year. And in Germany, we are also only buying electricity that has been produced by renewable sources. Yeah. And we're obviously doing a lot more in the future. So we're installing solar systems on our roofs, etc. But as we're hosted here by the International Federation of Robotics, let me point out that technology also offers very exciting opportunities to make the robots themselves greener. Yeah? So we found, for instance, that you can save a lot of energy in a robot when you just optimize its trajectory, yeah? Without sacrificing cycle time. And there are tons of other exciting technical solutions that we're working on with robot manufacturers and with other partners to make the robots themselves greener while they enable us to produce sustainable vehicles.
What about from the EU side?
By 2025, all vehicles that will have to be sold will be zero emissions. So that, of course, has an impact on the transition. I think there were already pieces of legislation that have been adopted on various issues of sustainability. One having to do with NOx emissions after an accident called Dieselgate. So basically the reinforcement of legislation in this field has been quite strong and the direction is quite clear. And what we've observed over the last few years is that the industry has taken the turn as well, which of course facilitates the movement. I'm not saying it's going to be an easy one because it raises a lot of challenges, of course, but there we want to accompany the industry with a regulatory framework that fits.
Believe everything you read in the press, the future belongs to electric vehicles, which means that the demand for batteries is going to continue to increase. How do you cope with this challenge?
I think if you talk sustainability in automotive, is batteries and many more. If you just take a very energy and intensive process like painting, we just released our pixel paint, where we are painting the cars in different colors like an inkjet printer. So we are literally not wasting paint with overspray, and we are just investing a third of the electricity, and you can get an art painting into your car. So that's for the paint shop. So it's one process. And ultimately, what's the right architecture of your factory, where flexibility has to be really paramount, because no one knows really what's going to be the mix of full electric, hybrid, and what's going to be the pace, but they need to keep their operations running. So I think sustainability is really, really coming across with all the EV transformation as an opportunity to enhance automotive operations in general.
The tasks ahead of us in Germany, in Europe mostly, are so large that we need to join forces through automation, through process suppliers, through customers to tackle these challenges, which are very huge just in dimensions, and B, also in quality, because it's new for everyone. Everyone who has, like they say, gasoline in their veins does not have electricity in their nerves necessarily. So it's a new learning experience.
Will the new applications in battery and battery systems offset the loss of robot applications in powertrain manufacturing?
I think in quality, this may roughly compensate. If you factor in the relocation of more production capacity to Europe, where automation level tends to be higher, I think the statistics say that automation, including robotics, is over proportionally profiting from the current developments.
Does the automotive industry agree?
Well, I mean, as you rightly pointed out, the auto industry is in the midst of a transformation towards electric mobility, and this is absolutely clear. And as Mercedes, we see this as a big opportunity, and our goal is clear, and we have communicated this. We will be ready for 100% electric vehicles in this decade, wherever market conditions allow. And so we're preparing our company. We're preparing our production network and also our people for this. And so what we're doing in the production network, there we're already very flexible due to early investments in flexibility, as you can see in our Factory 56 in Sindelfingen, where we produce hybrids, classical combustion vehicles, and also the all-electric SUV EQS, all on the same assembly line. Secondly, the batteries for the Mercedes EQ electric vehicles, we're supplying them by a global battery production network with plants on 3 continents. And we see local battery production as a key success factor also for our electric offensive. And last, but definitely not least, we're taking a lot of effort to qualify our people for electric mobility. So last year, we've qualified more than 20,000 of our employees in Germany to work with electric vehicles, to be qualified for that.
What's the role of the European Commission in this challenge?
One point there that I'd like to add to all the valid points that were made is that there will probably role for automation robots to play as far as circular economy is concerned, which is also an aspect that we reinforce. So not only until the end of the lifetime of the product, but actually to use the waste so that we can actually work towards a more circular economy. And I draw your attention to the recently legal initiative, which is Sustainable Products Policy. So basically where we would put requirements for products so that they can be recycled, dismantled first, recycled, remanufactured, or etc. One of the illustration of it, which is done in anticipation, concerns actually batteries with the regulation on eco-design. So basically this requirement that the batteries will not be dismantled somewhere on another continent and the raw materials wasted, so that we can actually use the batteries either for a second life or for dismantling and using the components.
How does the robotics industry contribute to sustainability in terms of resource use or resource reuse?
Just take single-use plastic, okay? I mean, really polluting our oceans and so on. There are many companies, for example, here in Germany, there's a fantastic company called Kiefel, or another one in US called Zoom. They're really technology companies developing compostable packaging. So you can reuse agricultural waste and transform it into cups, pots, and so on that can be degraded into the ocean. So these startups or these companies that are scaling could never scale at the pace they are doing without robotic automation at the heart, because then you can standardize, replicate, and scale. And that's going to have a big impact, for example, on plastic, on single plastic source. You have then, of course, supporting the renewables. I mean, all of us here are supporting, for example, solar panel companies in producing not only in China, but also moving things back into Europe, like in our case, for example, Absolicon in Sweden. So you take the energy, you take the product, you take the processes. Construction is another example. There's a lot of waste in construction, and I mean, there's a big move to build pre-modular, prefabricated houses in factory. You save a lot of, avoid a lot of waste. So it's really, really transversal.
And by design, as I was mentioning before, the fact that those robots being reprogrammable, being very flexible, they don't need to be thrown whenever the SKU, whenever the product is changing, what you could see in the past in electronics, for instance. So they should not be done anymore. It should be reused. It should be reprogrammed. It should be re-engineered, reintegrated. So there is more work for sure to be done there. On the energy side, I think all our R&D teams work on that topic so that for any new product, we make it more efficient than the previous one. Maybe still we would gain, I think, in getting more transparency to actually share our performance on this and to be transparent, to improve.
Additional aspect is to focus on the areas which are relevant for sustainability. Today, this is battery. Tomorrow, or maybe this afternoon, it's cell production. Maybe tomorrow it's fuel cells. Maybe, thinking about what will be the next step after that is a big contribution to sustainability, to provide the tools to enter this more sustainable and energy efficient, sustainable world.
Are your robots getting younger or older?
Well, I think we see a slightly aging workforce at our robot population.
The last 3 years, we've learned that resilience is just as important, if not probably actively more important, for automation projects. How has that impacted your business with, you mentioned it, relocating or reshoring critical production steps back to Europe or closer to the customer?
One trend, of course, is resilience, so redesigning value chains. And this is more about of a footprint and step issue. And that's already, of course, bringing a lot of business back to Europe and US and outside of China. But then is, what do you invest? What type of automation do you invest? And now when we talk about customers, about decision making, in the past it was only about performance, was really the criteria. Now it's performance plus flexibility, which enables resilience. We talked to some leading fashion companies. They had to design an automated warehouse. And they said, in the past, I was using technology A because it was the highest through output and so on. Now I'm using technology B, which is not that high through output, but I can just scale it down or move it or change it, because honestly, I don't know how much my share of e-commerce is going to look like in 2 years. So I need to have that capacity. So resilience has become really a column in the scorecards of our customers, and that has implications on the technology choices and how they decide.
I'm absolutely sure that you can only have a resilient production system when you use a lot of digitalization. Yeah? So if you look at global supply chains, you need to have full transparency what's going on, and this can't happen without true and powerful digital solutions. I've mentioned our Factory 56 in Sindelfingen, which is only one example. We have this technology in all the plants, rolling it out throughout the production network. And especially the flexibility in the production network also comes to the fact that we've invested quite a bit in digitizing the plants. So we have a high level of digitalization on the shop floor, really providing the team members with all the information they need and many other sophisticated digital solutions. And this helps a lot with flexibility, which then helps with resilience. So there is a close connection between the topics.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Look forward to seeing you next year.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.